Imagine waking up, not, to gentle morning light, but instead to this deafening roar of water, a massive wall of it just barreling toward your home in the middle of the night. That was the terrifying reality for people in Jalalpur Pirwala, a city in Pakistan's eastern Punjab province, just this past Sunday. So today, we're doing a deep dive into this unfolding crisis. We really want to peel back the layers here. Understand the sheer power of nature, yes, but also the incredible resilience of the people caught up in it. And, importantly, get you the facts behind those headlines that can sometimes make these events feel so far away. We're trying to make sense of the chaos, the courage, and really get why this is so much more than just bad weather.
Absolutely. What we're looking at here is a really profound humanitarian challenge, and it's escalating fast. We're focusing today on a story that really kicked off late Sunday, that's September 7th, 2025. It's happening in a bustling administrative area. They call it a tehsil locally, home to almost 700,000 people. And this is a place where agriculture isn't just a job, it's everything. It defines life there. So yeah, our goal today is to connect the dots, from what's happening right there on the ground in Jalalpur Purwala to the much bigger picture, the far-reaching implications. We want you to grasp the sheer scale of this.
Okay, so let's dive right into that immediate crisis then in Jalalpur Pirwala itself. Things really hit a critical point on Sunday, September 7th. That triggered this huge evacuation effort by the authorities. It was Irfan Ali Katia, he's the Director General of the PDMA, the Punjab Disaster Management Authority. He sounded the alarm, and that set off these operations that went frantically right into the early hours of Monday, September 8th. Can you give us a feel for just how rapid and how big that initial response really was?
Well, the response was, frankly, extraordinary given the circumstances. By dawn on Monday, September 8th, they had moved over 25,000 people out of the most dangerous areas, whisked them away to safety. It's quite something to see how quickly the Chenab River, which is usually this, serene, vital part of the landscape, just transformed. It became this raging, destructive force. It submerged surrounding villages almost immediately and then started creeping into the edges of the city itself. And the images, they're harrowing. There was one resident, Tajdin, who was rescued. He described seeing people perched on tree branches, half submerged, clinging for dear life. Just gives you a sense of the desperation.
What, clinging to trees? It's hard to even picture. And the sheer amount of water.
Yeah.
It's just mind-boggling. We know it's monsoon season, obviously, but what else is feeding into this? Why such a massive surge? Especially when we hear about places like Sialkot breaking rainfall records going back decades.
Yeah, that's really the core of it, isn't it? This isn't down to just one thing. It's more like a devastating combination of factors hitting all at once. So first, you've got significant pressure from upstream. Neighboring India, dealing with its own serious floods, has had to release excess water from major dams. Think Thane, Madhapur on the Ravi River. And these aren't small releases. We're talking huge volumes. At one point, Gandasingh Wala saw flows up to 300,000 cubic feet per second, cusecs they call it. And that water flows directly into Pakistan's low-lying areas. Now, it's important to say these releases were notified diplomatically. That's standard procedure under the treaty. But the sheer quantity of water is still immense, regardless of notification.
Okay, so upstream releases, that's one big piece.
Right. Then you absolutely have to layer on the climate change context. It's just basic physics. Warmer air holds more moisture. That means when it rains harder, more intensely. And the numbers back it up. Punjab has seen 26.5% more rain this season compared to last year. That's a huge increase. It's clearly amplifying the natural weather patterns. And finally, there are critical environmental factors in the mix, too. You've got increased glacial melt coming down from the Himalayas. Pakistan has, believe it or not, over 13,000 glaciers, more than anywhere outside the poles. That melt water adds to the rivers. Plus, deforestation upstream means fewer trees and less vegetation to act like a natural sponge. And then rapid urbanization, often unplanned, it clogs up natural drainage systems. Yeah. So city streets, like we saw in Sialkot, turn into rivers almost instantly.
And it's not just about managing the water, is it? There's that whole historical context with the 1960 Indus Waters Treaty governing the shared rivers. It mostly held up. But you mentioned geopolitical tensions. There was that skirmish back in May 2025. Does that sort of thing add a layer of maybe suspicion or complexity to how these water release notifications are viewed on the ground, even if experts say water isn't being weaponized?
That's a really insightful point. Because even if the treaty technically functions, these massive climate supercharge events put immense strain on it. And yes, any existing political friction, however unrelated it might seem, can definitely color the perception. It adds this emotional, psychological weight to the technical process of notification. So it's maybe less about the treaty itself failing and more about the incredible pressure it's under now. And that feeling of having control or not having control over something so vital like water, that really impacts how communities feel about cross-border cooperation in a crisis like this.
Right. Let's bring it back down to the human level now, because that's where the real cost is. I was struck by the story of Ghulam Shabir, you mentioned him, a 50-year-old construction worker. His home, his farmland, just gone, swallowed by the water. And his plea for faster rescues, saying homes and fields are gone. You can just hear the weight of worry in that.
Yeah.
Can you share more about these kinds of personal stories? Are they widespread?
Oh, absolutely. Ghulam Shabir's experience is tragically being repeated all across Punjab right now. These aren't just a few isolated cases. We're hearing so many stories. Families scrambling to get a few belongings into tiny boats, children on rooftops looking absolutely terrified, elders who just refuse to leave the land their families have lived on for generations, even with the water rising. It's story after story of struggle, of survival, but also of immense, heartbreaking loss. It's unfolding village by village. The individual toll is just devastating.
And it's important to remember the situation in Jalapur Pirwala is part of this much larger monsoon disaster that's been hitting Pakistan since late June, really. The national numbers are just staggering. Over 900 deaths across the country linked to the floods. In Punjab alone, at least 56 deaths just since August 26th. We're talking 4.1 million people affected, over 4,000 villages across 25 districts, and more than 2 million people displaced just since August 23rd. It's almost impossible to really wrap your head around numbers that big.
It truly is. And the economic impact is just as staggering, maybe even more so in the long run. Punjab, as you know, is Pakistan's breadbasket. Half the country's population lives there. It produces the vast majority of essential crops: wheat, rice, cotton, sugarcane. So when floods hit Punjab this hard, the economic gut punch is felt nationwide. We're looking at over 1 million acres of cropland just gone. Wiped out, countless livestock lost, a massive hit to vital exports like rice and cotton. Some experts are even warning rice prices could jump by 50%. That fuels inflation in a country already facing serious economic headwinds. You think about farmers like Mohammed Amjad in Chinia. He lost 13 of his 15 acres. He'd borrowed money for seeds. Now, it's all gone. His whole livelihood just vanished.
So faced with this absolutely monumental challenge, what's the response actually look like on the ground? You mentioned the scale earlier, but how are they tackling it? You said it's a mix of old school grit and new tech.
Exactly. The coordination seems quite impressive. Punjab's chief minister, Mariam Nawaz Sharif, she's personally overseeing the operations from a central control room, trying to keep everything efficient. You see hundreds of boats out there navigating the floodwaters, thousands of rescuers, army troops, police, but also so many civilian volunteers. Helicopters are crucial for reaching those really isolated spots, airlifting people out, and they're using technology like thermal imaging drones. These are like high-tech eyes in the sky, especially useful at night, spotting people stranded in the dark so boats can get to them. The provincial spokesperson, Uzma Bukhari, has been very clear, saying they're using every tool they have.
And it's not just the official response, right? You mentioned volunteers. Community efforts are always so vital in Pakistan during crises like this.
Oh, absolutely critical. Groups like the Pakistan Markazi Muslim League, they're volunteer powerhouses. Often they're the first ones on the scene in affected areas, handing out food, water, basic aid, and just providing that crucial moral support when people have lost everything. And you also see this amazing organic local action. Mosques using their loudspeaker systems, not just for prayers, but to broadcast evacuation warnings, guide people to safety points. They literally become lifelines for their communities. It really shows the strength and resilience at the local level.
It sounds like some of the proactive steps, the early warnings, have made a difference this time compared to maybe past floods.
Yes, definitely. The fact that over 500,000 people were evacuated before the worst hit in Punjab alone, that has undoubtedly saved many, many lives and reduced the number of casualties significantly compared to what it could have been. You really have to credit the National Disaster Management Authority, the NDMA, their alerts, the satellite monitoring they do, the community drills they've run in vulnerable areas. All that preparation has paid off. It's made a tangible difference.
But even with all that effort, all that heroism, tragedy still strikes. It's heartbreaking to hear about that rescue boat capsizing near Jalapur Pirwala just days before the main evacuation. 5 people killed, 15 injured. It's such a stark reminder of the dangers involved.
It is a terrible reminder, and the challenges absolutely don't stop when the floodwaters start to go down. We have to think about the unseen costs, the problems that linger. There's a very real threat of a health crisis. All that stagnant water is a breeding ground for diseases, cholera, hepatitis, and snake bites become a real danger too, leading to hospital emergencies. Then there's the social disruption. Millions of kids are out of school, maybe 25 million just in Punjab. And the burden often falls disproportionately on women and children. They face separation from family, lack of privacy, poor hygiene facilities. And the threat isn't over yet. The NDMA is still warning about risks in low-lying areas. More rain was forecast through September 10th. It's an ongoing situation.
And this ripples outwards, doesn't it? It's not just Punjab. Downstream in Sindh province, over 100,000 people have already been moved. They're still haunted by the catastrophic floods of 2022. They're terrified of a repeat, fearing what they call a super flood, maybe over 900,000 cusecs hitting their barrages. That past trauma just hangs heavy in the air.
It does. But amidst all this difficulty, we are seeing some signs of international help arriving. On September 8th, Saudi Arabia sent 10,000 food packages and shelter kits. That came after the U.S. sent some emergency supplies, too. It echoes the global response we saw after the 2022 floods, which brought in pledges of around $40 billion. It shows the world recognizes the scale of this humanitarian crisis. That support is crucial.
And looking beyond the immediate crisis, beyond the aid, it really has to be about building resilience for the long term, doesn't it? What are the experts suggesting Pakistan needs to do to better cope with these events, especially if they become more frequent with climate change?
That's the crucial long-term question. Experts like Ayub Sharifi over at Hiroshima University, they're really emphasizing the need for fundamental changes. We're talking about investing in better, stronger embankments along rivers, major reforestation efforts upstream to bring back some of that natural water absorption capacity, and significantly upgrading early warning systems so alerts are faster and reach everyone. There are also some interesting initiatives starting, like one called Recharge Pakistan. The idea is to restore wetlands, which act like natural sponges during floods. These kinds of forward-thinking, nature-based solutions are going to be absolutely vital.
So, wrapping this up, what we've discussed today, what's happening in Jalal and right across Pakistan, it's just such a stark, powerful reminder. Floods like these aren't simply bad weather.
Not at all. They're clearly being amplified by our changing climate. And this creates a really profound climate injustice. You have Pakistan contributing less than 1% of global greenhouse gas emissions, yet suffering so disproportionately from these extreme weather events. It's a tough reality.
It really is. And as those rescue efforts continue, as families somehow find the strength to start rebuilding their lives from almost nothing, you see this incredible human spirit shine through. But taking this deep dive today, it really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? What responsibility do we all have individually and as a global community to try and stop these kinds of catastrophes from just becoming, well, the new normal? That's something to really reflect on.